Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, we've got Alpha Radagast playing the Tier 10 Steel cruiser, U.S. Cruiser Austin. He is divisioned with Squidpent in the Annapolis and Darkwolf 782 in the Preußen. And I haven't watched this. I presume it's a good game, if not all three at least. For our hero here, let's take a look at the matchup here. So we've got United States on each team. 1, 2, 3 super ships. Well, I'm not a fan of super ships. Really not a fan of a lot of things that wargaming has done with World of Warships, but they can put out a lot of damage. So we'll see what happens here together. All right, so 2 destroyers per team. Kitakaze, Estegutland on the good guys team. Fletcher and Yugumo on the bad guys team. Austin, of course, has, 127s? Got 12 of them. 6 turrets, 2 barrels per turret. And HE shells and SAP shells. Yeah, if I remember correctly, the HE shells do about 1,800, I think, max damage with a 9% fire chance. And the SAP shells do considerably more, 2,800, 2,900 per shell. But without the fire chance, of course, with SAP shells. And it looks like the good guys are going to follow the Kitakaze into the Charlie Cap, or at least push that way. Looks like the bad guys are probably going to pick up the Alpha Cap. Mr. Gitland has either had a slow start or this isn't really heading that way very quickly. So the Reds have got a destroyer in the Alpha Cap. Mr. Gitland is headed that way, but it's debatable whether they're going to get there in time. You can see that the enemy Yugumo was seen at Echo 8. And the friendly Kitakaze, I imagine he's liable to smoke up here rather than get blapped by the United States. We'll see. Okay, bad guys do pick up the Alpha Cap. Mr. Getland still hasn't made it to the cap yet. And Kitakaze's looks like he's going to pick up Charlie. He does. Good guys take a little bit of a lead on the early secure of the Alpha Cap. And Fletcher's out there now, detected by Mr. Getland. And let's see, 1, 2 cruisers and 2 battleships able to get shells on the Fletcher now. I'm guessing he smoked or just outran this to get them. Still no shots fired here by Alf. Just moving into position. You can see lots and lots of interesting things in the Austin. Torpedoes, defensive fire, a reload booster, which you'll see here in just a second. And look at the shells raining down. 4 heals and 3 hydroacoustic surge. Poor Alaska. Now, it's not often that I'll say poor Alaska, but in that very brief span of time, 51 shells on target. And Squid finishes off the Alaska with his Annapolis. Good guys now have a 12 ships to 11 advantage. Kitakaze is still sitting in the cap. Bad guys have secured both Alpha and Bravo. Mr. Getland on the friendly team, I'm not sure what he's on about. I mean, his positioning there just looks awful to me, but yeah, maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. Kind of a slow start for the good guys, despite the fact that they picked up a kill on the Alaska. Mr. Gitland and Brest now both in the Alpha Cap, working to flip it. Fletcher presumably has torpedoes on the way. Why Mr. Gitland is sitting broadside to the possible approach of torpedoes beyond me. Huguemot takes out Saint Louis. And Huguemot is apparently behind the friendly ships. Because the good guys didn't put anything in the middle of the map. Not good positioning, but they do manage to flip the Alpha Cap. Iowa and Hanover now on the one line. Hopefully they're getting some broadside shots, maybe on Aegir there. But Huguemot behind enemy lines is a real threat. I'm a little surprised that the friendly CV has not recognized that threat and gone looking for the Huguemot. It is not impossible. Huguemot is just going to steam straight for the friendly CV and take it out of the game. All right, so here we are, 7 minutes into the game, and maybe Alf's going to get a chance to use his guns again. Very slow start. Angling up against Annapolis, who has very powerful guns. Musashi might get a shot on the Annapolis. We'll see. I think AP might have worked better here, but, or excuse me, SAP. He does switch to the SAP, but the torpedoes are going to do some work for him here. There is a flood. SAP might finish the job, and it does.
We destroyed an enemy cruiser.
And that's now 88 shells on target. 1 kill, 62,000 damage, 2 torpedo hits, and a flood. Both teams now down 2 ships. And bad guys are in trouble. You can see the Huguemot did exactly as I suspected. Made a run for the CV. He might get him. We'll see. United States is a super ship and might be able to outrun the Huguemot and the Huguemot torps. We'll see. And Alf's just raining HE shells on the Schlieffen. But moving into secondary range now. There's a fire. And the damage over time that is possible with the fires from the ship is pretty phenomenal. "39 seconds until the reload booster comes back up. Get some torpedoes away. Cyclone now has limited visibility to 8 kilometers. And Schlieffen's secondaries begin to open up. Now, Musashi might get a broadside shot here. Really close range. Nope. Does land a torpedo, and I think that's going to be it for Schlieffen. Somebody will finish him off. And Squid finishes him off. So Lepanto takes out the friendly Musashi. Squid in the Annapolis takes out the Schlieffen. And the good guys are now down 4 ships, bad guys are down 5. 151 point lead for the good guys and climbing. But the bad guys do have Lepanto in the Charlie Cap. Now, this ought to be interesting. There's the reload booster, and you can just see the devastating volume of shells that this ship can put out as the Lepanto melts. That's now 251 shells on target, 114,000 damage, 3 torpedo hits, and this is looking pretty good for the good guys. Stalingrad's pushed in. Alf says I better turn out before I get sunk. But it does look like you got the torpedoes between the wrecks there. Now Stalingrad continues to accelerate. He might outrun the torps. But somebody caught him. Kitakaza, I guess. And Stalingrad goes down. Bad guys are now down to 5 ships, and this game is probably all over but the shouting. Eger now in the Charlie Cap. Hanover and Iowa falling back. Presumably the Fletcher is back in the Alpha Cap. Jean Bar are squaring off in the Bravo Cap. This game's not over, but it will take some pretty boneheaded play, I think, for the good guys to lose this. It would be a throw of epic proportions. CD probably doesn't want to get too close to the Austin.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert.
Eger and Satsuma, both pretty tough ships. Austin not particularly well armored. But capable of putting out so much damage. So both Jambar are sunk in the Bravo Cap. And we've got broadside opportunities on Jaeger. Does the reload booster. And I think the SAP would work better here. He does switch to SAP. And he's just going to now melt the Jaeger. And down he goes. And now up to 335 shells on target. 140, well, just shy of 145,000 damage. And in case you were wondering, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the Austin is all about. Find opportunities, hit that reload booster, and watch whatever your target is melt. Now you got to be careful with your positioning, because the ship is not especially tough. You can see 476,600 potential damage. So it has taken some fire, but Alpha's still sitting with just under half his original age. Well, I guess a little over a third. That's probably more fair to say, of his original HP. But he has a heal available. I mean, he could use that. Almost within range now of the Satsuma. And I think this game is pretty firmly in the bag for the good guys now. Satsuma comes into range. Cyclone, not enough to keep the Satsuma out of harm's way. Bad guys now down to 3 ships. Good guys still with 7. It's turned into a bit of a rout. The United States on the red team takes out Squid in the Annapolis, but not until Squid has sunk 3 ships. And Alpha sunk 2, and I imagine about to sink number 3 right here.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
And there it is.
Destroyed an enemy battleship.
Good guys now down to 2 ships. Ouch.
The ship is on fire.
But a commanding lead, and it looks pretty certain that the good guys will be able to pick up the Bravo cap and secure the win. So, taking a look at ICOP's contribution. Squid in the Annapolis, 3 kills. Alf in the Austin, 3 kills. And Dark Wolf in the Prusen, well, I'm guessing he did significant damage and tanked a lot of things, which would certainly have helped.
Our victory is in sight.
And yes, the victory is in sight.
Anti-aircraft gun
Defensive fire goes to work. Alf trying to avoid this big damage, and does. Almost within range with the guns now. And pops a heal. 16 seconds for another defensive fire. 33 seconds until he's got another reload booster. This game really is a good example of what makes Austin a very tricky thing to handle.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on normal alert.
13 seconds to the reload booster now.
Torpedoes dead ahead.
And turning to avoid a torpedo. I think he's going to be able to do it. I think I'd probably keep the guns hot, but it's alright. And that is that. Great game.
Our team has taken the
Nice job, ICOP. Those of you joining me, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. 399 shells on target, 171,000 damage, 3 ships sunk, 5 fires, 2 floods on 3 torpedo hits. An impressive game. ICOP, well done. Those of you joining me, thanks a bunch. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.